Let's get right into it. Number 7. The Ancient Egyptian Pregnancy Test. Okay, so it's 1350 BC in ancient Egypt. You're a young woman named Nefertari, and you think you might be pregnant. But how can you know for sure? Well, lucky for you, the ancient Egyptians had a pregnancy test that was way ahead of its time. Here's how it worked. You'd take some barley and wheat seeds, place them in separate bags, and then you'd pee on them. Then you'd wait a few days to see what happened. If the seeds sprouted, congrats. You were officially expecting a little pharaoh. If not, well, better luck next time. Now, you might be thinking, come on, that can't possibly work. But modern studies have shown this test was about 70% accurate. That's pretty impressive for something invented before indoor plumbing. The Egyptians thought they could predict the baby's gender as well. If the barley sprouted first, it's a boy. If the wheat sprouted first, it's a girl. Number 6. The Ancient Indian Cataract Surgery. Imagine you're living in ancient India, over 2,000 years ago. One day, your grandpa starts complaining that everything looks foggy. He can barely see his own hands. In most parts of the world back then, he'd be out of luck, but not in India. You see, ancient Indian doctors were doing something mind-blowing. They were performing cataract surgery. There was a doctor named Sushruta. This guy was basically the Superman of surgery back in 600 BC. He even wrote a book called Sushruta Samhita that was like an ancient medical textbook. Now, inside your eye, there's this thing called a lens. It's like a tiny magnifying glass that helps you see. Sometimes, especially when you get old, this lens gets cloudy. It's like someone put a foggy window inside your eye. Most doctors today would take that cloudy lens out and put in a new one. But Sushruta came up with something crazy clever. Using a special needle, he gently pushed that cloudy lens down to the bottom of the eye, out of the way. And just like that, people could see again. Also, Sushruta wasn't using sticks and stones for his tools. He had precisely made instruments from bamboo and metal. This guy was so ahead of his time, he'd probably have invented smartphones if he'd been born today. And get this, these ancient doctors were clean freaks too. They used special herbs to keep everything germ-free. Meanwhile, doctors in Europe wouldn't figure out the whole wash your hands thing for another 2,000 years. Number 5. The Viking sunstone. Let's say you're a Viking sailor, out on the open sea. No GPS, no compass, just you and a whole lot of water. How do you not end up completely lost? Well, lucky for you, you had the sunstone. This wasn't just any old rock. The sunstone was probably a piece of Iceland spar, a type of crystal that does some pretty cool light tricks. Vikings would use this to find the sun's position, even when the sky was super cloudy. Here's how it worked. They'd hold up the crystal and rotate it until they saw a special pattern of light. This pattern pointed straight to where the sun was hiding behind the clouds. It's like the stone had X-ray vision for weather. Why was this such a big deal? Well, if you know where the sun is, you can figure out which way is north, and if you know north, you can sail anywhere without getting lost. It's like having Google Maps in rock form. When other sailors were stuck twiddling their thumbs waiting for clear skies, Vikings were out there exploring new lands and probably naming things after themselves. Now you might be thinking, come on, this sounds like some made-up nonsense. But here's the thing. Modern scientists have actually tested this out. They used Iceland spar to find the sun's position with crazy accuracy, even on super cloudy days. The wildest part is that this tech was so advanced that it wasn't rediscovered until the 1960s. So next time you hear someone say people in the past were dumb, remember the Viking sunstone. These guys were crossing oceans with a rock that's smarter than some of our gadgets today. Makes you wonder what other cool stuff we've forgotten, doesn't it? Number 4. The Ancient Egyptian Water Clock. Imagine you're an ancient Egyptian, and you need to know what time it is. No smartphones, no wristwatches, nothing. So, what do? You grab a bucket of water. That's right. The ancient Egyptians invented a clock that used water to tell time. It's called a water clock, or clepsydra if you want to sound fancy. Picture this. You've got a big stone container with a tiny hole at the bottom. Water drips out slowly, and as the water level drops, it reveals markings on the inside that show the hours passing. It's like a giant hourglass, but with water instead of sand. Now, here's where it gets cool. This water clock worked day and night. Sundials were useless after dark, but the water clock kept on ticking. The priests could time their midnight rituals without having to guess when midnight actually was. So, yeah, they didn't just use these clocks to know when to knock off work. The water clock helped them figure out when to plant crops, when to hold religious ceremonies, and even when the Nile would flood. Now, you might think that this was just some basic tech that never improved, but later versions got pretty fancy. They added floats, gears, and even little statues that moved as time passed. It was basically the iPhone of the ancient world. Number 2. The ancient Egyptian prosthetic toe. Let's imagine it's 3,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. You're walking through a crowded marketplace when you spot something unusual. A person is strolling by, but they're missing a big toe. Yet, they're walking as smoothly as anyone else. How's that possible? The answer is an incredible wooden prosthetic toe. This prosthetic toe was found on a mummy, and it actually works. Scientists tested it out and found that it helped people walk almost normally. And get this, it even had a hinge. That's right. In a time when most people think Egyptians were just piling up big rocks, they were creating movable artificial body parts. The ancient Egyptians didn't stop at just making it functional. They made it comfy too. They used soft leather straps to attach it, showing they cared about the user's comfort. So next time you stub your toe, remember, you could have gotten a pretty sweet replacement in ancient Egypt. Number 1. The Roman Hippocaust system. Now you might think the Romans were just a bunch of guys in skirts conquering stuff, but these toga-wearing geniuses had invented underfloor heating in their houses thousands of years ago. Here's how it worked. They built their fancy floors on tiny pillars, creating a gap underneath. Then, they'd light a fire in a furnace outside, and the hot air would flow through this gap. The whole floor becomes one giant foot warmer. Keeping this system running was a full-time job. It wasn't just about lighting a fire and walking away. A team of unpaid workers had to keep the fires burning continuously, feeding it with wood, and ensuring the heat was just right. Now you might think this was just for the rich guys. But no, they used it in public bathhouses too. Imagine it's the middle of the winter, but you're chilling with your buddies in a warm bath, talking about the latest gladiator fights, all thanks to this crazy underground heating system. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.